Hello and welcome back to the next episode of Beyond the Ropes with your hosts, your esteemed host. Well, one esteemed host, Laurie.
I'm too.
Oh, you're too kind. So there's lots going on in female boxing. It's an opportunity for us to break it down today. To start things off, Chantelle Cameron has vacated her WBC super lightweight title, which takes her out of contention for the Sandy Ryan fight. Sandy Ryan was mandatory for that. So she claims she's done this to protest the 2-minute rounds in female boxing, kind of championing for equality in terms of round time. What are your thoughts?
First, I was surprised. It seems a bit, I wouldn't want to use the word bizarre because I don't want to diminish what she's trying to do. I see what she's trying to do, but that's a big stand, right? To give up your title, something that you've worked so hard to achieve off the back of that. I mean, I know when I say that, please don't, I'm not trying to diminish the whole 2-minute, 3-minute round and equalities thing, but I was surprised because Chantelle Cameron, very good boxer, very good for the sport. But to give up your title, I mean, I don't know, I thought that might be a bit too much. Is my first thoughts. I mean, I do commend anyone for taking a principled stand, but when you've worked your whole life towards being a champion, and you know she's had issues in the past with the Katie Taylor fights and stuff like that. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, and then you know Sandy Ryan was due to fight for it. Those two have got beef. That would have been parlayed. I would have fought into a big fight, big money, a high-profile fight. So yeah, I was
would have been a good fight as well.
Yeah, definitely, especially with Sandy Ryan coming off back-to-back losses against Michaela Mayer. So she's anxious to get back. Chantelle Cameron had that defeat a little while back, but she's bounced back. So yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think also like the fact that it's the WBC title as well, like, you know, that green and gold, like, is something that, you know, fighters, they chase, they want that, right? That's the status.
That's
like,
right.
Of all the belts, I mean, all the belts are great, don't get me wrong. But the WBC
No, definitely
holds,
it
holds definitely.
That's prestigious.
It's prestigious, exactly. So it was a big move. It's a big stand to take. Interestingly, I saw something circulating online about, I think it was from the WBC, correct me if I'm wrong, but they had put out something about why it is that they have 2-minute rounds for women as opposed to 3-minute rounds. And it was speaking about how it's like based in lots of science in the fact that, you know, women need more time to recover between the rounds.
Oh, okay.
All their bodies the recovery is a little bit different. So if it was 3-minute rounds, it would actually impact them negatively. And it's not, you know, just I don't know, I guess like a show, you know, there was actual science behind it, which I thought was interesting, because I know there's been lots of talk across the years about these 3-minute rounds for women.
Sure.
I personally don't know how I feel about the 2v3 thing, but I kind of feel that if there is some type of scientific backing behind why those 2-minute rounds are put in place, then we should follow that.
I've always looked at it like it's an element of protection for the women. That's how I've always perceived it to be. Personally, I'm going to be honest with you, I quite like the 2-minute rounds. You know what I mean? The fights go quicker. I've always said that women's fights, you get more action than, you know what I mean, the men's in terms of the amount of punches thrown and the way the women tend to engage. So, for example, last week we saw an absolute snooze fest with Zach Parker and Joshua Buatsi. And there's a lot of people dispute decision, but then that's another matter. But that was a terrible fight. At the top level in women's boxing, you very rarely get what I call boring fights.
You
because
don't.
the women tend to engage. And one of the reasons why you get that is because in 2-minute rounds, you haven't got a whole lot of time to get your job done. You need to, it's a bit like when I boxed amateur, I remember I boxed 2-minute rounds and 3-minute rounds. When I did the 2-minute rounds, it was always frantic because you've got to try and get your stuff done in the 2 minutes as opposed to 3. With professional boxing, a lot of people think that with the additional minute, and I guess this is true, there's more, it gives you more time, so you get more stoppages and stuff like that. But me personally, I don't have a problem at all with 2-minute rounds. In fact, I think that's one of the reasons what makes the women's fights more entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that in 3-minute rounds, obviously you have more time to set things up, right? To kind of feel out the opponent, you know, go at it a bit more, not a bit more strategically, because that then implies that the 2-minute rounds people aren't going about it strategically, which they are, but it's a different type of strategy. However, I mean, I really like the 2-minute rounds. I like those all action fights, you know. And again, if it comes down to the protection of women based in real science as opposed to just something that happens, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I've heard advocates of the 3-minute round. So, for example, when Amanda Serrano fought Katie Taylor, she was trying to get the fight over 3-minute rounds because I think the perception, certainly for her camp, was she's younger, liable to last the 10 3-minute rounds better than Katie Taylor would. Katie Taylor probably prefer the 2-minute rounds.
Suits her style way more, yeah.
Exactly. But and then there is this concept that you're more likely to get more stoppages. I think one thing that people talk about in women's boxing, which I don't necessarily agree with, is that there's not enough knockouts. So the rationale being that if you have 3-minute rounds, there's more chances of women getting stoppages. I've heard Clarissa Shields talk about that as well. When people say, oh, you've only got 3 knockouts in your fights, she'll immediately come back and say that's because it's 2-minute rounds and some of the girls.
but then you look at someone like Tia Ayton, she's just turned over.
That's right,
and she's had 4 fights, 4 stoppages, or is it 3? I don't know. I think it's 4.
I know she's a bit of a stoppage machine.
Yeah, so you can argue these things, and maybe there of course is an argument to be made about these things, but I don't think that's necessarily the thing. No. But there is also, I think, the other layer, which is, the disparity in pay for women's boxing. And I think that there probably is an argument to be made that if there was 3-minute rounds in female boxing, then they can advocate for equal pay. And so there's stuff around that, which, I'm all for the equal pay. But then you have to look at it from like a business perspective, which is like, well, in terms of how much they're contributing to the economy of boxing, it's still not as popular as a male main event. So I think there's lots of arguments for and against. For me, I think I always err on the side of safety first over anything else.
100%.
But interestingly, going back to Michaela Mayer, because she fought last weekend.
That's right.
October 30th over in Canada. She fought Mary Spencer.
That's right.
Won unanimously, and it made her unified super welterweight champion, and she's now asking for the Lauren Price fight, which would be an absolute barnstormer.
Definitely.
But I was so impressed with Michaela. I mean, she always impresses me, to be honest. Like, I'm a huge
She's a very impressive individual.
Yeah, she is. But she went into that fight as, like, on paper, the smaller of the two, but she handled the ring. I don't know if you got a chance to watch
I saw the fight. Yeah, I saw the fight, and she well won it. I know Mary Spencer was like this outstanding amateur, wasn't she? I remember she'd gone many fights unbeaten. In fact, Clarissa Shields was the one that kind of snapped her unbeaten run as a youngster. But yeah, Mary Spencer was a top amateur. Hasn't quite gone on to have that level of success as a professional, but she was still the bigger girl. This still was a challenge for Michaela Mayer. And as usual, Michaela Mayer handled it with aplomb. The good thing about Michaela Mayer is that she's like what I call a box puncher, so she can box, but she's very aggressive and she likes to let her hands go in the pocket, so it makes her very good to watch. And she's very skillful as well. She
just doesn't give a shit either. Yeah. Like she's hard as nails.
She is.
And she'll just like have a good old tear up, but she does it with so much technique as well. And I was just so impressed with how she handled that fight, because she was cutting off the ring. She was working behind that jab. She wasn't, because I think Mary Spencer was going into that fight being a bit taller with the reach advantage, thinking, I'll keep her at the end of my jab and she won't get anything off. Michaela Mayer was just absolutely rushing in and doing what she needed to do.
She's got a new coach as well, Michaela Mayer, and she's saying that she's in the best form of her life.
Yeah.
And the last couple of fights, you can't disagree with that, because she was really good against Sandy Ryan.
Oh, amazing. And even better in the second one.
Yeah, absolutely. And this performance here, away from home as well. So yeah, that fight with Lauren Price would be a top fight. I mean, if you'd have asked me a little while back, even 6 months ago, I would have said Lauren Price favourite, because Lauren Price is really, really good. The problem is Lauren Price now has not fought since she beat what's our friend from Liverpool called?
Natasha Jonas.
Natasha Jonas. And I remember watching that fight, and she beat Natasha Jonas quite comfortably.
Very comfortable, yeah.
So I mean, I know Natasha Jonas stepping up in weight, and she was the older girl by some distance, but Lauren Price absolutely outclassed her. And to do that to Natasha Jonas, you got to be good.
Yeah. Natasha's
so at that
no
point,
walkover.
if you'd have said Michaela Mayer versus Lauren Price, I'd have said, Lauren Price wins that all day. But now, it's a different scenario.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think that, you know, she's stayed ready. She's been in loads of fights. She's been in hard fights as well. She's always in hard fights, which is another thing I absolutely love about her. And I think she's gained a lot of experience, and now she's comfortable at the higher weight as well. As you say, Lauren Price hasn't been in the ring for a while, so I think actually that would be a really, really interesting fight. I would say, if I was going to give an early day prediction, I reckon Michaela beats Lauren Price.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I'd still lean towards Lauren Price because she's the bigger girl. I don't mean taller, but, you know, in terms of mass, she's a bigger, I would imagine, stronger athlete. I would imagine so. She's also a very, very good boxer, Lauren Price.
She's fantastic.
Her footwork is brilliant.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
I think that's one of the things that sets her aside from a lot of the women's boxers is her footwork, which is very, very good. Punch power, they're probably on a par with each other. But then the volume of Michaela Mayer and the aggression, she's going to bring it. That, to me, that's a great fight. And, of course, the other thing about Michaela Mayer is she's very articulate, sells her fight very well. Been to this country a number of times. I've actually met her over actually when she was fighting Alicia Baumgardner. Did an interview with her for DR Sports. So she can talk, is what I'm saying. So that'd be a great fight. Lauren Price doesn't really talk as good as Michaela
it's a
Mayer,
skill.
to be
I mean,
fair.
it's a skill in and of itself, and,
Yeah.
and one that Michaela, definitely possesses. And she's just great. I like her a lot, and probably like my like for her is clouding maybe my objective.
No, but I mean,
opinion.
she's in form.
Yeah, she is in form, and I think she's just hungrier than ever as well. It's
Yeah.
the vibe that I'm getting from her. So yeah, I would definitely lean towards her. But it will be interesting. It will definitely be an interesting fight to see. So yeah,
I would imagine that fight would take place in this country.
I think so too, which might not work in Michaela Mayer's favour, you know, historically.
She travels well, as we see.
She does,
when
but
she went to
historically the
Canada.
scorecards haven't gone in her favour when she's been over here. The Baumgardner fight, obviously lots of people were on the fence about which way that went. I have personal opinions about that.
Now tell me, man, because I was there that night, and I'll be
I was
interested
there
to
that
hear
night, and on the night I thought Baumgardner won that fight.
Right.
Then I watched it back, and I was like, oh, actually, I'm not so sure about that. I think Baumgardner did a lot of eye-catching work, but I actually think that Michaela Mayer won that fight. But I don't think there was a lot in it.
There wasn't a lot in it,
And I
no.
don't think it was like a robbery or controversial. I think it could have been scored either way. That was the feeling that I got from it. But then I did think that she won the Natasha Jonas fight, and the scorecards didn't go in her favour, which is a shame. But, you know, Michaela Mayer being the queen that she is, she didn't let that deter her, and she just went and she built, and look at where she is now, unified at Super Welter. So big future ahead for her.
Absolutely. I was there that night. I watched that fight. Great fight. I must admit, I had Baumgardner winning by a round or two. It was close, but I just thought that on that particular night, Baumgardner's quality was slightly higher than maybe the volume suited Michaela Mayer, but I just thought the quality of the punches were in favour of Baumgardner. But I can see why there was controversy. In fact, I remember being there with my brother Robbie, and he was like annoyed because he thought that Michaela Mayer won it clearly. So boxing, it can be a very subjective,
It is subjective,
sport in which
yeah.
to score. You know what I mean? But I personally thought that the quality was slightly with Baumgardner, but I wouldn't have had a real issue if it had gone the other way.
I think we should rewatch it. I think we should rewatch it.
Sometimes I don't like to rewatch fights, you know, because you can be skewed by what other people are saying.
We can watch it silently.
Yeah, okay. But definitely with the Natasha Jonas, that was robbery.
Yeah, that was a robbery.
So listen, I'm a big fan of Natasha Jonas. Met her as well, really nice girl,
Oh,
really
lovely,
talented
yeah.
fighter. But I've got to be honest, man, Michaela Mayer won that.
She won that fight, yeah, I think so too. Anyway, I think that's all we have time for today, unless you have anything else you'd like to.
Yeah, just so, where do you stand on the giving up the belts then? Do you think it was warranted? Do you admire her stand, or Do you,
I think-
do you, like me, admire her stand, but maybe I'm not so sure if that was the best way to prosecute what she's going to say, what she's trying to do. Sorry.
Without getting too philosophical about it, I do admire people taking stands for principled stands for things that they believe in. I do. How much of that it comes from her personally, I'm not sure, or how much of it from MVP and, you know, because obviously Amanda Serrano with the 3-minute rounds and, you know, that whole stable sort of pushing for that. I really don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you want to stand for something and you have principles, more power to you. Who am I to make a judgment on that? I think that it's a shame that she gave up her WBC title.
That she felt she had to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, what's she doing going forward then? Because if they don't make the rule change, does that mean she's not going to fight no more? I mean...
Yeah, it's hard to say.
But hey,
Stay tuned.
stay tuned indeed. We'll see what happens. I wish her all the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wish her all the best, and I hope she gets what she is.
Yeah,
looking
let's hope it can be resolved favourably.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.